have to. But we're sorry for a Mishnah. We're in Zion base, yeah. We're in. Yeah, we only did a blot Thursday night. Actually, tonight's Gemara is very easy, interesting, etc. Beis Shammai matinas atzoros lachim. Beis Shammai permit the co-wives to the brothers. Now that means if you have three brothers, I'm not sure there's a picture in here. Let's see if there's a picture, but I didn't bother looking it up. But if you have three brothers, Reuven, Shimon, and Levi, right? And Reuven is married to Shimon's daughter, and he has a co-wife, right? And then Reuven dies, so then, of course, Shimon can't marry either the daughter or the co-wife, but the Beis Shammai holds that Levi can marry, that he can... What? I'm sorry, alright, I better find a picture if there is one. Just a second, it'll make it clear. Okay, wait, don't lose it. Here, this is... no, this is not a good picture. No good picture here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but it's not even that complex. It's less complex than that. You have two brothers, Reuven and Shimon. Reuven is married to Shimon's daughter and another wife. Okay. Reuven now kicks the proverbial bucket. Okay, so Shimon can't marry his daughter. Right. According to Beis Hillel, he can't marry the co-wife either. Okay. But according to Beis Shammai, he can marry the co-wife. Okay? So Beis Shammai has the co-wife. That's what it says here. Beis Shammai matir netzatzores lachim. Beis Shammai permit the co-wife to the brother, even though he can't marry his daughter, he can marry the co-wife. Beis Hillel forbid this. Why? Because they have a special drush that says the litzror, that when you have two tzaros, one of which is forbidden, so that he can't be miyabim the other one either. Chultzu. Now, what if he did chalitza on them? Now, the Beis Shammai Beis Shammai says chalitza is real chalitza. Since Shimon, although he can't marry his own daughter, since he can't be miyabim his own daughter, but he could be miyabim the co-wife. According to Beis Shammai, therefore, when he does chalitza on the co-wife, that's a real chalitza. It's bona fide. So therefore, just like any chalitza, it makes that woman no longer suitable for a Kohen to marry. However, Beis Hillel says that chalitza was superfluous. He's not allowed to be miyabim neither his own daughter nor the co-wife. Therefore, he doesn't have to chalitza on his own daughter or the co-wife. So the chalitza is a superfluous, gratuitous act, and therefore he cannot make this woman unfit for kahuna, because it was a meaningless gesture. Okay? A nisyabu. Now, what, of course, if the yibum did occur? So Beis Shammai says the child of this union is a legitimate kosher kid. Well, Beis Hillel posted. Beis Hillel render him unfit. Why did Beis Hillel render him unfit? Not only he's unfit, he's a mamzer, according to Beis Hillel, right? Because according to Beis Hillel, it's a brother's wife, shelo b'mokom mitzvah, where the mitzvah doesn't apply. So therefore, the progeny of that union is a mamzer. So you have a case in which Beis Shammai, the kid is a legitimate and kosher kid. According to Beis Hillel, the same kid is a mamzer. Okay? So says the Gemara, nevertheless, even though Beis Hillel would say that the kid's a mamzer, Beis Shammai would say the kid is a fine and dandy kid. Lo nimnu Beis Shammai miliso noshim Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai did not refrain from marrying women from Beis Hillel. Of course, the woman they would not be allowed to marry is a woman who was a co-wife of an erva and went out scot-free to the marketplace. Because according to Beis Shammai, she requires yibum or chalitza, right? So according to Beis Shammai, would not be allowed to marry such women, and Beis Hillel would identify such women before Beis Shammai. And Beis Hillel would not refrain, below Beis Hillel would not refrain from marrying Beis Shammai, even though there was a case which was potentially a mamzer according to them, where there was a brother who was miyabim, the co-wife of an erva, despite the fact that the erva was usher, they would still marry into Beis Shammai, and each would notify the other. And Gemara is actually going to say notify each other. The Mishnah doesn't say that. Similarly, all the Torah things which are Torah and Tomei, Shorelim B'Tari and Velim B'Tamim, that these ones would say are Torah and these ones would say were Tomei, that Aloni Nu Osim Taros Elor Gavelu. Despite that, so even though they had major machloksim, major disagreements of what's Torah, what's Tomei, they did not refrain from involving themselves in the common practices where they both agreed. Now, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi, B'Shem Rabbi Noroi says, "There's a Talmud Beis Shammai. What's Lahaja Beis Shammai? Who says that the co-wife can undergo yibum or chalitza. The co-wife of an erva, the co-wife of, let's say, your daughter who's married to your brother. So then what's the logic of Beis Shammai? So the very interesting drasha. The Bavli also brings down this drasha. Lo tieh eishes hameitza chutza li'zor. The wife of the deceased should not go out to a foreign man. Now the way we darshan in that is hachitzona, the one who's the woman who's on the outside. In other words, chutza is not a verb, means she shouldn't go out, but rather it's an adjective. The Isha who's the chutza woman, meaning she's not related. There's a karov, which is a relative of yours, and there's a chutz who's not a relative of yours. So your brother had two wives, one which is related to you and therefore forbidden, the other which is a chutza is not related to you and therefore it's permitted. She may not marry somebody else, she's got to be misyabim or do chalitza with you. Okay? Asi the Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai Suasha goes kilikutai like the Samaritans. Shehein miyamines harusos. The Samaritans had a custom, they did evil to women who were betrothed, umotziin es hanesuos, but not to women who were married. In other words, if a woman was betrothed to your brother and then your brother died, you would do yibum or chalitza to her, but not if she was already fully married to your brother. What drushes they learn? The inu darshin chutza achitzoina. They learned the same drush as Beis Shammai, except with a different portent. They learned that it meant that the only woman who gets yibum chalitza is a woman who's already who's still somewhat of a chitzoina, who's still somewhat outside of your marriage. How's that? She's only betrothed and not fully married and living with you. Says more mama kaimin. It should be kutoi. How does the kutoi learn? The pasuk says uben ein lo. Now this is such a sad question, so sad, because it reflects limited morality which in our time and Beis Shammai's time. Beis Shammai's time. It said, wait a minute. It says you have to check out the wife if she has a kid. If she has a kid from this husband, then there's no yibum chalitza. According to the Kutai, of course she didn't have a kid by the husband. They were never fully married, right? So isn't it obvious that she didn't have a kid by this husband? So obviously the question is, of course there's no hanky-panky, right? So obviously there's no kid, so since there's no kid, so what are you checking out? So Rabbi Yaakov Drumi Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yaakov Drumi said for Rabbi Yossi, Ubein ein lo. We check out if he doesn't have a kid, from another woman. Now it's for this woman, he couldn't have had a kid because he was only betrothed and not married. But maybe he has a kid from another marriage to another woman. Then if she doesn't have a kid from another woman, only then is she forbidden to marry a foreigner and must have yibum or chalitza. Amar lei. So Rabbi Yaakov Drumi said to Rabbi Yossi, Lo yechash noch kutai. I hope that they will not suspect you to be a kuti. That mekayim drashel, because you justify their drushes. In other words, you came to defend them and say how they darshan the pasuk of Ubein ein lo. Tanya we learned. They of course they'll be in Torah Shmiksaf. Yeah. They don't believe Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Right. I didn't think they moved that far.
No, sure, they have their own Torah. It's written in Samaritan. Saf Ivri. No, it's ours with very minor differences. They have though. It's our Torah. Yeah, but it's a mistake which we all have, that to think that Samaritans and Karaites didn't have Torah Sheba'al Peh. They did, just they made it up. They know there was a Messiah on it. They also have drushes, but the drushes are not like our drushes. Right, some people our drushes are made up, but they are the apicursive. In any event, says the Gemara further. Tani Rabbi Shimon Elazar says, Numeisi. I skipped. No, I didn't. Numeisi Sovrei Kutim. I said to the Soifrim, the rabbis among the Kutim, Mi Garachem Litoisu, cause you make a mistake. The lace atun drosh. Now the problem is, I didn't see anybody speaks about it, that Beis Shammai made the same mistake. The Gemara is going to say that. Mi Garam Lachem Litos, the lace atun drosh Chaim Nechemia. Who made this? Who made you make the mistake that you darshan chutzah like chitzoina, that you don't have Rabbi Nechemia's drosha? The Tani Hashem Rabbi Nechemia, it's learned the name Rabbi Nechemia. Kol davar shu tzarech lamed b'tchilaso, any word which needs a lamed at its beginning, which means to so and so or to some place. Veloni download and was not given the lamed. Nita lo hey besofo gets a hey at the end. That's the Kamat principle. Kagron, such as lachutz, meaning to the outside, can also be written chutza, right? L'sa'ir, to sa'ir, can be written se'ira. L'sukos, to sukos, can be written sukosa. So a year two, chutza means lachutz. It's not an adjective, chitzaina, the external one. It's a what? Going out, yeah, verb. Okay, going out to a place, or going out somewhere. So, Messina Rabbi Nechemia. They asked Rabbi Nechemia what the following pasuk. What else the following pasuk would adds both? Oksidan say Yeshuvu Rishorim l'Shaola. The evildoers are returned to Shaola. So it's redundant. Lamed and Hey. Rabbi Bar Zavda. So Rabbi Bar Zavda said, L'Dyute Atachtona Shel Shol. They're going to go down to the lowest level of the grave, or of the pit, or of Gehenim. So that's what saying L'Shaola means down there. It's a double down, right? To say that the Rishonim are going to go down to the bottom of the pit. Tani we learned from Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, Hey, this is a discussion actually they had in Yavne in the Sanhedrin, it seems. See how this halacha is expanded literally, but how it's prevalent in Am Yisrael. In the kind of Divrei Beis Shammai, and we learn at Beis Shammai, Avlad Mamzer can Divrei Beis Hillel. Think it's going to be a Mamzer going to Beis Hillel. In the kind of Divrei Beis Hillel, if you're going to learn like Beis Hillel, Avlad Mamzer Divrei Beis Shammai. The kid is a Mamzer going to Beis Shammai. Not necessarily Mamzer, but he can be puzzle, right? So, Bovin and Sakain, let's make a generic principle in order that nobody has to worry about what's going on. There are all these cases, they'll get chalitza and not yibum. So everybody will agree that then they're not considered to be tzaros anymore, and then we won't have a problem of not being able to marry either them or their progeny. So why don't we just do like that? Call a conference and resolve that everybody's going to be machmir, right? So says the Gemara, Tani, we learned Lois people at Tatskin, they didn't get a chance to make such a takana until something went awry and they were not able to do so. Shingala said, you know what? It's a good thing that they weren't allowed to do so. You can't, because if not, Mana said, what are you going to do with all the old co-wives that Beis Hillel allowed to get, that Beis Shammai allowed to marry their own brother-in-laws, and the ones that Beis Hillel allowed to go out lashuk without having done chalitza? What are you going to do with all of them? if we say now we're going to make a pshara and we'll always be machrir, so those poor girls, neither Beis Shammai nor Beis Hillel will be poor girls and boys. Neither Beis Shammai nor Beis Hillel will marry them. So therefore we can't make such a takara. Now, says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Elazar says, Ava Pisha Nechlaku, Beis Shammai Beis Hillel B'Tzoros, even though Beis Shammai Beis Hillel argue about the Tzoros, about whether they're allowed to marry or marry them, or whether they need a libu and chalitza or not. Nevertheless, Modem Ayu Shein of Vlad Mamzer. Beis Shammai concedes to Beis Hillel that if the Yevama got married to the marketplace without the benefit of a get, without the benefit of chalitza, the kid is still not a mamzer. Why is the kid not a mamzer? She's not an Eishesach. She's not an Eishesish, right? You're really correct. In other words, even though Yevama has Zika and she has to marry the Yavam, but a prohibition to everybody else is no longer a prohibition on a capital level, rather a generic prohibition, and therefore, since we pass in like Rabbi Akiva, that a mamzer has to be from a relationship which will generate a death penalty, not just malchus. So therefore, there's no mamzerus according to Beis Shammai in the case of Beis Hillel, where the Yevama goes out lashuk. Okay, so it says the Gemara. Shein mamzer el misha shu asur left Yisraeva. There's only mamzeres from a woman who's forbidden to because of some araya sister. V'chavel occurs to the case where there's kares as well. In other words, there's a capital punishment attached to the case. Rabbi Tarva said, "Toivani, I'm desirous sheyeli tzaras habas, that I should have the co-wife of a daughter, meaning that the deceased brother was married to his brother-in-law's daughter and to another co-wife. I yearn for such a case, Shasen in order they should be able to marry her out, even to a Kohen, without having to undergo chalitza. So who's he paskin like? They can marry out a co-wife. Beis Shammai holds that the Yavam can marry the co-wife, but not she can marry out. Who's the one who holds she can marry out without a chalitza, even to a Kohen? That's Beis Hillel. Okay, so Rabbi Tarva said, I want to paskin like Beis Hillel. I'm so much waiting for such a case so I can paskin like Beis Hillel over Beis Shammai. Okay, now we have a little bit of a longer story here. Shlosh Rabbi Yeshua. Oh, not yet. This is a shortish one. Shlosh Rabbi Yeshua asked Rabbi Yeshua, Tzoros Mai, B'nei Tzoros Mai. What's the story with the kids of the Tzoros? In other words, these kids, which Beis Shammai says are legitimate, but Beis Hillel says are illegitimate. So he said, you're putting my head between two tall mountains. Between the words of Beis Shammai and the words of Beis Hillel. And in order that they should squeeze his brains out, right? What I can do is I can testify there was a family in Beit Zanuvi, from the house of Tzvuim, by Mishpachas Beit Kifei, in the house of the Kifei in Beit Koshish, Shubnei Tzoros, they were children of Tzoros, and they got married, as the Korbanei says, to the marketplace of that benefit of Chalitza, which according to Beis Shammai is a no-no, and nevertheless, their children were considered to be legitimate, not halolim, and therefore the their grandchildren were kohanim gedolim, great kohanim, oidim u'makriya gamizbech, who saw the mizbech and sacrificed their pot. So you see that a kohav can marry lashuk without the benefit of chalitza or yibum, as long as her co-wife was an erba to the yavam, was forbidden to the yavam, and that's in fact the case over here. Okay. It says one further. Rabbi Yaakov Reidi b'shem Rabbi Yerushalmi Levi said. The Yaakov Reidi said, "Nei Rabbi Yerushalmi Levi." Now this story is brought down with some modifications in the Bavli as well. Third line down the wide lines. A mice happened that the elders came in to Rabbi Dosa ben Hirkanis. To Rabbi Dosa ben Hirkanis, Lisholu al Tzor Sabas to ask about the co-wife of a daughter or any other Hebrew. Amrullah, so they said whether she's mutter to the brothers or not. So Amrullah said, Atu shat matir b'tzoros. Are you the one who said it's mutter for the co-wife of a forbidden relationship to marry the guy with whom she does not have a forbidden relationship? So it says the Gemara, Amrullah, so he said, Mashmatun, what you make me put me under suspicion? Says the Gemara, did you hear Doisa ben Hirkanos? Did you hear that the author of that statement was Doisa ben Hirkanos? Amrullah said, no, we don't hear Doisa ben Hirkanos. Ben Hirkanos, we heard the word Ben Hirkanos, we assumed it's you, whatever your first name is. Amrullah said, not true. Yonasan Achi Luhava, B'chor Satan. It's Yonas, my brother. He is the firstborn of a Satan, which actually is considered to be a compliment in that days. It means he was very sharp. It's very snappy. So, when we come in Beis Shammai, so the students of Beis Shammai, Huzaru Imenu, be forewarned of him. He has 300 responses about Tzor Savas, vis-a-vis other whether she can be masbi mishabem socholetzes, or whether she can just go to the marketplace. Azun Garbe, so they went to this fellow, to Yonasan, the brother, and in the meantime, his brother Rabbi Dosa told him, sent him a letter, be careful about the Chacham Yisrael who are coming to you in Nechasei Lecha, because they're obviously kosher people. Shayan, so they came into Yonasan's house. The Yosef Luka come in, they sat in front of him. Or have a Mashmalon to explain to him why he held that Tzor Sabas should undergo Yibum Chalitza by one of the brothers. Below Sovereign, he didn't understand. Mizmalon, he tried him again. Below Sovereign, did not understand. Shayim Mitzkan Namnami, so they started falling asleep. When you're born in Shir, you don't understand it, what do you do? Got it. So, of course it never happens here. So, I'm going to say so in my Shir sleeps here. I'm going to say, he said, why he was falling asleep? Shadi Mishneh, so he started throwing rocks at them. Here we see the ancient source for throwing rocks at people who are recalcitrant. Okay? Pebbles. They were really pebbles. Maybe even sandstones. So it says the Gemara of East Divine, some say, they came in at one gate, confident that they're going to overcome Yonasan ben Hirkanos' argument. With Tlas and Apki, they went down at 3 gates because they scattered in shame that they were not able to refute his arguments of learning. Asul Garbe, so they came to him. Amalei, so they said, Ma'atomar. They came back to Rabbi Dosa, the brother, and he said to them, they said to Rabbi Dosa, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. So Yonasan sent a message to Dosa's brother. Why did you send me by Nosh people? Bo Melach, that they still have to learn how to learn. And you said these are the elders of Israel, these are sages of Israel. Now one of them is Rabbi Akiva, we'll see who they are. So obviously he was big stuff. So they came back to Rabbi Dosa. They said, what do you say? We can't deal with your brother. It's too smart for us. What do you say? So he said, I'll tell you. On this stone, or this millstone, Yoshav Chagai Hanavi sat many years ago, Vehid, and testified 3 things. That the tzara of the co-wife of your daughter, however married to another man, goes scot-free, and he can start from she goes scot-free to the marketplace, and she can marry a Kohen. Now, if she had to undergo chalitza, of course, she's not allowed to marry a Kohen anymore. So here she doesn't have to undergo chalitza, and she can marry a Kohen. And he also testified a couple other things. When you take off tithes from them, land, that since they're outside of Eretz Yisrael, they're not really required to keep Shemitah. But there's Takara Rabbana that they should keep Maasros. So when Shemitah comes along, they actually have to give Maaser from the Shemitah stuff. Because it's not Takara Rabbana on Shemitah, but there is a Takara Rabbana on the Maaser. Okay. Valgeri Tadmor, and he also testified that the Gerim Mekar city of Tamor, Shein Kshenel because they're acceptable to come to the congregation of Israel. Why? Because they're not Jews who were cast aside, but they were authentic, whatever they are. Okay? So it says the Gemara. So he said, right, at this point said, Plon Shein Einai, lift up the teeth of my eyes, meaning my eyelashes. I should recognize the elders of Israel. So obviously it's very important for him to come down and have this interview. So Araz Rabbi Yoshua. So he saw Rabbi Yoshua, Karl he said about Rabbi Yoshua, Esmio read there. He who's going to teach wisdom, what we call nowadays Shachor or Adel. And it says in the Carbon Ada says here that it has to be somebody who is I'm getting confused with the Rashi later on. That's pretty straightforward. So sorry. Oh no, Rashi does say something here. Because the Pasuk says, "It's me Yoredav, it's me Yavin Shmuel, who will have more knowledge, have more understanding." It's Gemuli Michal, those who are weaned from milk. I think it should be removed from the breast. Why is that? Because when they are far away, no, sorry, wrong words. That's because when they it's going to say. In other words, means those who were weaned on Torah at an early age. That's what it means. And he explains it right away. He says, I remember when Rabbi Shua's mother used to take him to shul in a cradle. The shul should stop because of the Divrei Torah. In order that his ears should be attuned to Divrei Torah. Then he saw Rabbi Akiva, Karl of Kfir Rush of Ravel. It says, Kfir Rush of Ravel, the young lions were made noise, or were impoverished, I should say more precisely, and were hungry. And so to Rabbi Akiva in his youth was very impoverished and very hungry for Torah. But then it says, Dorshi Hashem Tov, those who quest Kosh Baruch will not be lacking. And now he changed, Makirani Shon Gibar B'Torah. I know he's a great man of Torah. Then Rosh Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, he saw Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah, to Kochol of, he said, now you see Gamsa Kanti, I was a young lad at a old age. Makirani, I remember, he's the 10th generation from Ezra. Elazar ben Azariah was the 10th generation from Ezra. Vayinoi diamond of the day, and his eyes are like his. Now, this bothered me, I saw this. How did you know what Ezra's eyes look like? He wasn't even an optometrist. I know what Ezra's eyes look like. So I saw a beautiful shot of the Meshach Chochmah, the Ariyash means down. He says, you know what Ezra did? Ezra, according to Yerushalmi at least, Yerushalmi and Shabbos, he changed the way his Sefer Torah is written. It was originally written in Saviv, according to Yerushalmi. He changed the script to Tzav Ashuri. Why did he do that? Because people were no longer reading ancient Hebrew script, so he had to make it accessible to people. That's what Rebbe Elazar ben Azariah did. What was the first thing he did when they kicked out Rabban Gamliel? He made the Beis Medrash accessible. Everybody could get in. That's what it means. His eyes are like Ezra's, because it says the leadership of the congregation is called Einei Ha'eda, the eyes of the congregation. So his eyes, meaning Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's perspective on leadership, is the same. We have to make Torah as widespread as possible. Okay? So that's a beautiful shot. I'm Rabbi Chida Tzipori said, Rabbi Tafra is also with them. The Korah love, and he said, Kadosh Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, to Rabbi Tarfon, the same thing he said to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Okay, now let's get back to the Gerim. Rav Nachman Yaakov Amar, he said, the Kabin gave me the Karduyim. One cassette came for the Karduyim, I mean the Tadmorim for the Tadmorim, because they're definitely going. You know, we have many cases in Jewish history where you have people who say they're Jewish. And we don't know if they're actually Jewish. That causes them a lot of problems. So the Jewish, you have to abide by laws of divorce and marriage in order to avoid mamzeros. But if they're goyim, who cares? So it's much better if you, in most cases, to convert from goyhood than from questionable Jewhood. Okay? Is that clear? So here they were kosher because they were definitely goyim beforehand. Rabbi Yochanan says, Masi Somer came, the Mishnah tells us this, Shekerei Tadmor Ksherei, that can come from Tadmor or kosher. Thomas, you learned over there. Korach Soya Boimi Rekem Torim, all blood stains which come from Rekem are tar. Why? Because it's either real blood, or because it's blood of a Nida, but from a woman who's not Jewish. And non-Jewish women don't have Nida to tumor, right? Gary Tadmor Ksherei. This teaches us if everybody there is tar, means they're all goyim, so it must be that people who are there in Megayah are okay. Why is that? Because that means that they were definitely not Jewish before, and that's why their blood stains were not tummy. Okay? So it says the Gemara, Rabbi Yaakov Amar Shmosa. Rabbi Yaakov said over the following sugya. Now I'm going to learn it said the Shari Torah Yitzro. Rabbi Chida, Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Chad Masha once said, L'chatchila one could take these people as gerim. Chad Makaba one accepted them, but he didn't like accepting them because he still had a questionable. But so that's a machlokas. Ma the Machshir says it's okay Makabel, so he'll be able to accept them. Ma the Kabel he says that only B'diavad accepts them. Lo Machshir, it's not l'chatchila, not preferable. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Mishaim, can you hear me back there, by the way? It filled up a little bit. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Mishaim Rabbi Nachman Yaakov said, Bavel, it says Avol here, but it's Bavel. Bavel, you'll see Bavel in terms of family relationships. Ad Nohar's Roke is like Till River's Roke. We know that Bavel is considered to be genealogically pure. So to what extent, in other words, they didn't intermarry or commingle, stuff like that. So to what point is that the case? Until the point of Nahar's Roke. The other one say on Nahar Wani, so the Wani River. Between the two rivers is like the Gola, meaning it's good in terms of Yichus. Rabbi Chananya broke a b'shem Rabbi Yehuda b'nei Meishal lo choshulu el mishum sveika savichalos. The people of Meishal, they're not supposed to be mamzerim, only that the Kohanim there might be chaloli. The Kohanim shesham, why? Because the Kohanim over there is low ikbila grushas. They were not meticulous, not married divorcees. Kamakarin, but in Babel they called Mesa. Mesa was already dead. There was nothing reliable was going on there. Lemardai they called Choyla. It's almost dead. In other words, in terms of Yichus, there was no way of knowing specifically that was reliable at all. Right? Elam because Kav Choy Kosusos, they're not yet fully dead, but they're getting there. Chevel Yama, in other words, in terms of Yichus, they're gradually losing it. Chevel Yama to Chelta de Bavel. The area of Chevel Yama is the best area for Yichus in Bavel, with the assumptions very high. The people there are kosher people. Shanios is a place name. Avyoina, Venuchaya, Vetsutsuraisa, all these places are Tachlisa de Chevel Yama, are the best of Chevel Yama, even the better than the best. Now, period. In the Bisham it says a quote for a Bryson. There are by Tzoros, by co-wives, Uvachios, by wives, we get Yashar, a get which is already too old and has been given. With some vacation, you see the question of a woman who's married, Umekasha Pruta, and they are about somebody who marries somebody else with less than a dinar with a Pruta. But somebody who married, who divorced his wife, but then they went to the motel on Lincoln Avenue together. They went to motel, don't say day rates or night rates. They went to a motel together. What's their status? Are they remarried or are they separate? The Keyosh is when it was written more than a certain amount of time ago. Oh no. Yeah, so I guess it's superfluous. Like the next case is superfluous. That a woman only gets married for the value of a dinar, which is Beis Shammai's opinion in the Machlokas before with Beis Hillel, whether it's 7 or whether it's a pruta or a dinar. So in any event, this is all superfluous, so maybe they're both superfluous. Nevertheless, despite all these differences of opinion, Lo Nimnu Beis Shammai Liso Noshim Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai not refrain from marrying women from Beis Hillel, Lo Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, nor Beis Hillel from Beis Shammai, El Nogi Be'emes Sholem. They conduct themselves with truth and peace. Shneimar Be'emes Sholem Ahavu, love, truth, and peace. Says more Mamzeres, but it's about the Marachim. Was there indeed Mamzeres among them? So how can you say this? So this line really should have been before. In other words, should have said, how can you say it? So they marry each other's Mamzeres. And the answer is, Emes V'Sholem Nogu B'neihem. Imagine nowadays, if according to your psak I say this, a mamzer, according to your psak might say it's a mamzer, immediately the first thing, flying rocks. Right? Nobody's going to... But the old days they managed to get along. But oh, each other mamzer, that's right. Okay. Now how do you have a case of mamzeres in terms of how the marriage, or what the amount of money to contract the marriages? Thank you. You married the first one for a Shavet Pruta, Pasheni Bedino, and the second woman, you married 2 women in a row. One you gave her a Pruta, second one you gave a dinar. So according to Beis Shammai, who's married? The second one. They're married to the second one, to whom he gave a dinar, because the Pruta doesn't count. According to Beis Hillel, who's he married to? Mukudesh is Larishon, right? I skipped. He's married to the second one, and the kid for the first one is a mamzer. It's not necessarily a mamzer, right? Because it's just a kid out of wedlock. But the point is that it's conceivable to design a scenario which that can happen, right? Of course, is married to the first one, but Vlad. Ooh, I made a boo-boo. Bad boo-boo. There were 2 husbands, not 2 wives. 1 woman! 2 men! So the 1 woman got first from Reuven, she got a pruta, and from Shimon she got a dinar. So according to Beis Shammai, she's married to the second guy. She has relations to the first guy. The kid's the mamzer. According to Beis Hillel, the opposite. Bad mistake. You guys should have caught that one. Shows you're more sleepy than I am. Says Rabbi Aldai Beis Hillel is married to the first one about Vlat Mamzer Sheni, and the kid is the mamzer for the second one. Rabbi Yaakov Baruch Rabbi Yochanan said, "Moedim Beis Shammai leBeis Hillel lechormin." Beis Shammai was willing to make a concession to Beis Hillel. They're willing to go along with Beis Hillel lechumra and assume that once a woman receives a pruta, she's a Mukudeshes in that. In fact, the Bavli, at least the Kiddushin, says that everything has to do with the das of the woman. That in Beis Shammai agree if the woman had das to take less than a dinar, that would work. Okay? Says the Gemara, may out of that case, Beis Shammai should be Beis Hillel. Let Beis Shammai marry women from Beis Hillel and not vice versa. Because they can see the Beis Hillel and a pruta. But Beis Hillel should not marry women from Beis Shammai. They don't concede to them. So it says more Rabbi Chila b'shem Rabbi Yochanan said, Elu ve'elu k'halacha Yosef. No. Later on, at the bottom of the page, we're going to see there was a Pasco which came out and said, Halacha k'Beis Hillel. Right? So they both followed that Pasco and did k'halacha, meaning they did not maintain their previous positions. And that's why each one could marry the other. Not because they notified each other, but because each one followed the baseline halacha stated by the Basco that we go after Shavar Pruta. Okay? Wait, we'll get there. 1 second. Mari's not going to ask him, we'll deal with that. Says the Gemara, Wait a minute. In Kalachayos, if that's the case, that even Beis Shammai counts out the Beis Hillel after the Baskol, what about the following case? What about B'dot Nina? What about that case you learned? Shoglen Beis Shammai Upachsua. Now this is talking about a case of a mikveh. The mikveh, normally to connect one mikveh to another mikveh, what's the size of the aperture? Shfoferes Anod. Shfoferes Anod means the reed of the bottleneck of a bottle, which is 2x bows. The amount to take, you can turn in 2x bows. So that's Beis Hillel Shita. But Beis Shammai says you have to have the majority. I'm right. Yeah. Go look in the mikveh. I don't want to know last time when you went to a mikveh was, but if you go to the mikveh at Rosh Hashanah, then you'll see that that's the connection between the two boroughs. Okay, they make it a little bit larger, of course, but it's a real litvak. I doubt he goes there at Rosh Hashanah. Okay. So says what? So why did Beis Shammai achieve Chosas Ruba? Beis Shammai says until they knock down the whole thing. So Beis Shammai actually had them knock down the wall. If they agreed to Beis Hillel, why did they knock down the wall? Some Rabbi Yosef said really a fascinating thing. Actually, listen to this. This is really a very big chiddush. Actually, even after the Baskol, until Beis Hillel Paskin halacha l'maisa something, Beis Shammai didn't have to concede to them. Even after the Baskol, and all he meant was Beis Hillel Paskin halacha l'maisa. Now when they had a machlokes, just because they argued that's right, didn't mean Beis Hillel was right and that Beis Shammai had to bow to them. It was only after it came halacha l'maisa that actually Beis Hillel ruled in a episode, in a practical halacha, like their ruling. You see that? Before the Maisa and Beis Hillel, Beis Shammai were allowed to touch it as they wanted. Only Mishabo Maisa to Beis Hillel, Lo Beis Shammai Nogibo. Only once the Beis Hillel did a deed, halacha l'maisa, only then could Beis Shammai not touch it anymore from their perspective. Amar Ravi Avmori. Ravi Avmori said, Yos. Makes it right what they said. Because Mati wasn't say there in the Brisa, came along, but not any subsequent one, even if Beis Hillel came along later and changed it to their standards. Because again, everything is on, Beis Shammai is allowed to change it to their standards until Beis Hillel comes to Paskins on it. Not for the future on. Had Beis Hillel now come and fix it up, then Beis Shammai would have no right to complain, and they have to abide by the Shoferes Hanov. Rabbi Yosef ben Amar, Rabbi Shmuel Machlokas, Chanamar Elu Ve'elu K'Halocha Edosin. Each birthday, they both did like the halacha expressed by the Baskol. Each one followed their own halacha and ignored the other one's standards. So now that we're asked, how can we allow such a rift in Klal Yisrael that the one party holds that this is a mamzer and the other party holds that it's another party holds a mutter, and we're allowed to go on? So it's the Bavli who says they notified each other. And that's how they managed to do it. Because they told each other what the problem women were. The problem boys, the problem men. So, Shami says differently. Shami says, that Kodesh Baruch Hu guarded that it never happened during the time that Beis Shammai saw their arguments. For whatever hundreds of years they had the argument that there was a Tzaras Abbas. Didn't happen. So if it never happened, there never was any question. The Machlokes remained purely theoretical. Okay? Says Gemara Kada. That's going to opinion that each one. Now we're going to explain opinion that each one can follow their own line of reasoning. What's the opinion? No, I need a drink. I'll be right back. I'm losing it. Okay. Opinion that holds that each one did as they wanted, right? Not that they followed the Baskol. I turn on. Kador the Tani. That just said, we had this already many times in shots. Anybody who wants to be macher upon himself, anybody who wants to be macher on himself, and Lino Kuchume Beisham and Kuchume Beisil, and do like the Chumas of both of them. Al Zena Amar, it says about this, the idiot walks in darkness. Yeah, more Erevin Daf Yud Gimel. But Bavli. Kikuli Elu Ve'elu, somebody does like both of their kulos, Nikor Rashu. It's called an evil tour. El Okrive Beishami Kikulem Chumem, person can be consistent like Beishami and the kulos of Chumas, Okrive Beisil Bekulem Chumem, or consistent like Beisil and the Chumer kulos of Chumas. Now the other opinion knows that that's before the Basco came out. Avo Mishiotas Basco, when the Basco came out, La'olam Halacha Beisil, Halacha is always like Beisil. Okay? Anybody who transgresses the words of Beisil, Chayev Misa is Chayev, liable to death. Tani Yotza Basco, now I want to tell you, the Shari Torah Tzitzel is a whole thing here. He wants to say that Beis Shammai were really the Essenes. He identifies Beis Shammai with the Essenes, and he tries to show parallels between Beis Shammai, Shita, and Beis Hillel, and the Essenes, Shita, those people, the Dead Sea groups. And then he wants to say that this is a tremendous machlokas for years in Klal Yisrael between the Prushim and the Essenes, which were Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, till finally in Yavne, they actually decided that it has to be like Beis Hillel, not Beis Shammai. And he wants to say Ram Gamliel was head of the Beis Shammaites, and the day they kicked him out was the day that they decided to pass like Beis Hillel, and that was the Basco. It wasn't a supernatural voice, but rather it was the voice of the Sanhedrin deciding, for now we're going to follow Beis Hillel, and from then on Beis Shammai was down the tubes. He brings parallels to say why he tries to prove Rav Gamliel is like Beis Shammai, and from that he said, Ein Tochel Kaboro, people who don't have the inside like the outside can't enter the base matter, since that's like Beis Shammai, who wouldn't let the Gerim in, kept the Gerim out. He said that wouldn't let the people in if they were not too frivolous and stuff like that. I think it's all nonsense. I think it's all made up and not true. I think Basco is as simple as voice from Shemayim, right? That's what it always means. And Tani, we learned Yotza Basco V'Amra, a voice came out and said, Elu Ve'elu Tivil Kim Chaim, Ava Lochak Besil Olam Lochak like Besil Loilam. And I think maybe from this the Arizal got, the Arizal reputed to have said that Allah is like Besil in this world, but like Beis Shammai in the world to come, right? You ever hear that one? Oh, you heard it. No, Allah is like Beis Shammai. So it's a little bit of a diakeh. Allah is Besil La'olam for this world, not for the next world. But in any event, Be'echon Yotza Basco. Now the Yerushalmi asks a very funny question. Where did the Basco come out? Rabbi Yishem Rabbi Yochanan Amar B'Yavne Yotza Basco. The Basco came out of Yavne, which is very funny. Who cares? So I think the pshat is like this. Places asked the kasha by the famous mites we had back in Moikad and Rebbe Lezer and Hurkanus. It said Lo B'Shamayim, right? You don't paskin like a Basco. The Basco paskin like Rebbe Lezer. But here we paskin like the Basco. Balos Beisil, what's the difference? So I think Yerushalmi is coming to answer that. It says, it depends when the Basco comes out. If the Basco comes out outside of Beis Din, then he can't paskin like the Basco. But if the Basco came out in Yavne, in the Beis Din, that's a different kind of Basco. But Lo B'Shamayim means I can't bring proofs to my Shita wherever I am by performing miracles. But if Beis Din asks for a sign from Shamayim, and the Basco comes then to them, then they're allowed to follow it. You see, I think that's the difference, where the Basco came out. And that's asking. If the Basco came out in, my backyard, or the other, or a base medrash somewhere, or Shtibel, that doesn't count. But it came out of Yavne, that makes a difference. Okay? How do you sound reasonable? Doesn't like it. Alright. Next parak. How do you have a case of a brother who wasn't alive at the same time as the dead brother? So Shnei Achim, there are two brothers who were alive at the same time. And then one of them died, and then a third brother was born. So the third brother was alive at the time of the second brother, but not at the time of the first brother. Now, the first brother had a wife. And the second brother did Yibum on that wife. But then the second brother died, right? Umeis, right? The second brother died. Rishona, the wife who was married to the first brother, she goes out because she was married to a brother when the third brother was not yet born. So she cannot marry to do even to the third brother, even though she went through the second brother. It doesn't work. Vashnia, and the co-wife, the other wife of the second brother, Mishum Tzarasa, she gets free because she's the Tzara. Asaba Maimer Umeis. Now this is a fascinating case. You have two Yevamos. Same case. You have two Reuven, the brother who died. Shimon was alive at the same time as Reuven. Levi was not. Shimon took Reuven's wife. He wasn't Miyabimer, but he did Maimer her. Who remembers what Maimer means? He was Mekadosh with the Chup and Kiddushin. The Chup and Kiddushin worked by Yevama? Not the rights, according to most opinions, although Yerushalmi is not all clear. But at best, the Rabbanon, it seems. So therefore, what he did to Reuven's wife, Shimon, is he married her to Rabbanon, but not the Raisa. So now when Shimon dies, he had Reuven's ex-wife, who he did Maimer to, and his own wife. So now Levi of course can't marry Reuven's wife because that was Eitzor Shloya Baloma. He was alive at the same time that Reuven was alive. Levi, however, also cannot marry Shimon to be married Shimon's other wife, the Rabbanan, because Shimon is co-married to two wives with the Rabbanan, not with the Raisa, one of which is forbidden to Levi. But since it's only a rabbinic prohibition, not a Torah prohibition, so he still has to do chalitza to Shimon's other wife in order that she should be able to go free. Because the Torah, the Rabbanan undermining his right to do Yibum, does not deprive him of the necessity to do chalitza. Okay? Now how do we learn this all out? So Shniach Letzes Lo Misya Bemes. How do we learn this all out? Yachta. It says Yachta. That be together in this world. As opposed to his brother's wife who is not in the world at the same time. Says Gemara, Deloke Mano Namri. I said, if not for the drush, what did you say? Meis below Bonim. Say Ishto Asur Linase. If that's the case, without the drush, what would you say? If Reuven had a wife, and Reuven died and there were no brothers, could she get married? No. Maybe Reuven's father Yaakov will have another kid 50 years from now. Remember, men are fertile far longer than women, right? So maybe if you without the word Yachtav, what would you have said, says the Gemara? Would you have said that a wife is never allowed to remarry? Because maybe, unless obviously the father Yaakov is dead, but until Yaakov is dead, she shouldn't be allowed to remarry, because maybe someday Yaakov will have another kid, right? If that's the case, and even if his mother's dead, his wife should be forbidden to marry. Maybe his father in his old age, dirty old man, will go marry another wife. Doesn't have to be a dirty old man, even a clean man. He can go and marry another wife. V'yolid ben, and he'll have a son. And his daughter-in-law, the wife of the deceased, will have to be Misya Bemes. V'yoymer Kori, the Yerushalmi has a tremendous sense of humor here. The Yerushalmi says, so if that's the Bosuk, it shouldn't say Uben Ein Lo. He doesn't have a kid. It should say Uben V'yolav Ein Lo. They have to make sure that he has no kids, and no father. Because if he has a father, then he'd have to wait until the father dies, so he shouldn't have any other brothers. So obviously that's intolerable, it's preposterous. So that she's not required to undergo if there are no brothers now, it should be pashut mitzvah that she's allowed to right now get married, and she doesn't have to wait around to see if the father Yaakov has any more kids. So what do we need a drush of Yaakov for something else? When the father dies, and he leaves the mother of the deceased brother Muberes pregnant. In other words, there is a potential brother right now because the mother-in-law is pregnant. You might think in that case he has to wait. The girl has to, the wife has to wait. Shelo Tomei shouldn't say if in this if now the brother dies, going back to this generation, and leaves his wife pregnant. In that case he has to wait, right? Laden ben kayamu. Imeno ben Kayama, to know if she's going to have a child who survives or not. If her child survives, this is the Yevama. If her child survives, she doesn't have to do evil. If her child doesn't survive, so she doesn't have to do Yibum, right? If her child survives, she doesn't have to do Yibum. If her child does not survive, she has to do Yibum. So I might say that so too if the mother of the deceased husband is pregnant, you have to wait to see if she has a kid, which is going to make her wait now 13 years to do Yibum or not. So it says, so to here she has to wait to see if there'll be a viable kid or not, who's going to be her Yavam. That's why it says Yachto. To preclude a kid who's not around. In other words, even if the mother of the deceased brother is pregnant now, she doesn't have to wait around to see if this kid is born, and right now she's scot-free to marry the shul. So it's Pasha to Yerushalmi. Of course she can, she doesn't have to wait for the next 50 years to see if there's going to be another brother. The Chiddush is even if there's an imminent brother, the mother is pregnant with an imminent brother, she doesn't have to wait around for that kid. She gets to go and marry the shuk right away. And even after the kid is born, she's still ready Muteres because of the drush of Yachton. The kid wasn't around when her husband died. She's not concerned with him. We're not concerned with him. We'll stop here for tonight. That's true. But that's the one that's not taken into account because you would have to wait then and see.